absolutely wonderful to see people from different places. I am here in Mexico City. It is 11 o'clock at night, and I'm astounded to see people also from Mexico up at this time. It's past my bedtime, but it's absolutely wonderful to see so many people. Let's get started. This is about getting students speaking, and I want to explain what I want to do in this session by using my abstract. This is my abstract. Not everybody reads abstracts. I sometimes do, sometimes don't. And I want to look at this. I believe that it's very difficult sometimes to get students speaking. Newer, younger teachers sometimes find that a struggle when they start teaching. And I think, let me ask you, yes or no, or one finger response, just type Y or N. Have you found it difficult to get students speaking in your online lessons? Can you tell me? Just type a Y for yes and N for no. See if that comes through. Sometimes there's a short delay, they say, for things to come through. Right. Boom, different answers, yeses and some nos. Yeah. So, I mean, what I want to do, I want to look at things of ways we can make adaptations to what we are doing in our regular classrooms, whether they are face-to-face digital, and using very simple digital resources. I am not necessarily very technical, and I think a lot of teachers are also slowly learning to becoming more technical. Oops, just check this is working properly. Right, and what I want to do is I want to explore some ways of using low tech tools and give you some activities that you can do to get your students speaking. And also I want to think about how we can make some links to assessing speaking. Brilliant. So I want to start with this. TTT and STT. This is nothing new. This is something I saw when I started training to be a teacher back in the 1990s. I wonder if anybody would like to type into the chat what these stand for. Many of you probably know. It's nothing particularly new. Well, I should put it up on the screen. Oops. Yeah, it stands for teacher talking time and student talking time. Thank you very much. Exactly. Yes. We are told that we should get our students talking as much as possible inside the classroom. One way of doing this is reducing the time that the teacher is talking. It's important to mention that there are very good reasons for the teacher to talk, to give instructions, to check instructions, to model, to scaffold, to give feedback, to just interact with the students as well. So, I mean, teacher talking time is not a bad thing, but I think we would agree we want to maximize as much as possible the student talk. And how do we do this? I find myself talking more online. Yes, this is what typically happens. The teacher talks more, but we want to get the students talking. And one way to do this, or one of the things we have to do, is to get the students to feel confident and comfortable. It's not necessarily very easy sometimes to make students feel comfortable. There are many different factors that do that. We'll look at some as we go through. I think if we can empower the students, naturally we might do most of the talking, but if we can pass over some of the role to the students, that can help them take part in the class and for them to talk more. Yes, and only a few tend to talk quite frequently. And another thing we need to do, I mean, it's quite typical that the students might be talking to you, but I think we need to give students a reason to talk and interact with each other. And that comes down partly to the notion of task design. Now, we're going to look at some activities, some tasks, and hopefully you can see some of the principles behind those. Oops, I keep pressing the wrong button. And what I want to do in this session is I want to pick up on 5 different modes of teaching, five different modes of working, look at these and see how we can use these to get students speaking. And the first one I want to look at is the chat box. And I can hear people saying automatically, yeah, but the chat box is not speaking. In a sense, it's not. If speaking is producing sounds through the mouth, then the chat box is not speaking. But the chat box is actually quite parallel to speaking? Can you give me a quick yes or no answer, Y or N, to this question? Do you sometimes get your students to do some writing in preparation to speak? So you're going to get them speaking. Do you sometimes set them a piece of writing or to prepare some sentences in order? Yeah. And that is kind of scaffolding. That is helping them go through. Boom, the chat goes so quickly. Yeah, if you're not, I think it's a good idea, but many people are saying yes. I love the chat box, and something I like to do is what I call a one-finger response. Just press a letter. That way, okay, it's not really speaking, but it does get the students engaged. We've got to give students things to do. And I want to pick up on a page. I honestly think that we can take kind of any page from any book and make things happen with it. And I'm picking up a page from English File. It's one I particularly like. Some of you may know it, some of you may not. It is designed for young adults and adults. Chatbox is beautiful, isn't it? Yes. And a suggestion, you have these tools. You typically have these writing tools when you're using the electronic form of the book. And I suggest that you do this. That you number things. If you number things, it allows you to get students to be doing more activities. We do typically have to change the activities that we have inside our books because the activities are written for the face-to-face class, and we need to adapt things a little bit to make them work. Yeah, good. The chat goes so fast. Wow, absolutely amazing. And I've made it a bit bigger because otherwise you can't really see how it's going to work. Let's start off. I think that we can teach grammar more than trying to teach grammar all the time. Give students phrases they can use to express ideas. Let me do this, and this is a one-finger response. Just type the number of the picture. Yeah. In which picture can you see a book? In which picture can you see a book? See, that comes through. So in which picture can you see a book? All you have to do is type the number. Yeah, we may not agree. Yes, some people look a bit closer. Oh, let me ask you this one as well. In which picture can you see, or which pictures, plural, which pictures can you see a door? In which pictures can you see a door? Bam, loads of stuff coming through on the chat. It may be one picture, it may be more than, it may be. There's a book behind the word Rob in number 3, in number 4. Bam, here we go. Yes, lots of activities, one finger response. Okay, that's not speaking. That's me illustrating the sentence. Okay, I want to turn this around. This is an activity which I often call 30 teachers, 1 student. A typical class might have 30 students. There's a lot more in this particular room. I want to turn this around, and I want to make all of you the teachers, and I am the only student in the classroom. I want you to ask me, and this is going to go so quick, I'm not going to be able to answer half the questions. I want you to type the question, in which picture can you see, and then choose something from the picture. Yeah? I'm going to have to be very careful. I won't be able to answer all of your questions, but in your classes, you should try to respond to every single question that comes from the students. Now, if you don't type the full question, I'm not going to answer it. So, Carol, yes. In which picture can you see some trees? 1. In which picture can you see some 4 people? 2. Which people can you see a globe? 4. Which picture can you see a tree? 1. Which picture can you see a scarf? Good question. 3. Which picture can you see water? 4. Bottle of water. Which picture can you see a blue scarf? Yeah, some of it is being repeated, right? See some pens. I think that's 4 as well. Which 4, you can see some folders. Or can you see a smile? 2 and 3, nice question. Can you see some windows? I think I can see that in 1, 3, and 2. Yeah. I mean, Mohammed, you wrote bottle. That is correct. But it's an excuse to make you produce that piece of language. Checking the time. And you can do this with almost any piece of language. And I like this activity because I've given you a piece of language which you can use as students. And this has already started to happen. Brilliant. Somebody just wrote, which picture do you like the most? I like this activity. What happens is you give students a piece of language. This is the piece of language. I want you to try that. And the students who are not as proficient, they produce sentences using the structure you're giving them. But then what happens is that people come up and start to use other language. For example, somebody said, which is my favorite picture? Probably one. Yeah? Oh, in which person can you see the same? Yes. Aha. So this allows the students to produce language. Those weaker students who are not so confident will produce the piece of language which is there, and other students start to produce other bits of language. And you can do this with kind of any piece of language. Yeah. So we've done it with that. I mean, something as simple as do you like, for example. I was doing this earlier with another group. Do you like? Okay, very, very simple. Do you like India? I've never been there, but I would love to go. Sorry, yes. I want you to ask me, do you like? There seems to be some problems there. Yes. So again, all of you are the teachers. I am the student, and I have to respond to what you're putting into the chat. In which picture can you see a park? Number one. Do you like mate? Are you from Argentina or from the south of South America? Do you like sports? Some. Do I like elephants? Yes, I do. Do I like traveling? I love traveling, but haven't traveled. Do you like to smile? Yes, I do. Do you like Mexico? Of course. Do I like Mexican food? Do I like cats? Yes. Do I like dancing? No, I'm terrible at dancing. Do I like tacos? I live in Mexico. What do you think? Do I like teaching? I love teaching. Do I like webinars? Bam! Do you see what I mean? I mean, it's such a simple thing that you give them a piece of language, and now I can't answer all of your questions, and then the students are producing. Is that speaking? No, but it's a piece of what is commonly spoken language. I'm seeing so many things go past. It's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And what typically happens is that students go beyond that language and start asking other stuff. At its best, what happens is that it actually goes beyond, and students actually start having conversations with each other in the chat. Do I like to clean my house? Sometimes. Do I like coffee? Yes, I'm a teacher. Most teachers I know like coffee, probably like it too much. Yeah. Bam. Okay, fantastic. So you can see how you can use something very simple. And something I've realized is that I've seen many teachers using the chat, but if you don't respond to the chat, students are not likely to really work at it. Okay, it's too much stuff. Do I like collecting coins? I do have a small collection of coins. Interesting question. Right, let's keep going. So thinking about the chat box. Oh, yes. So, yes, one thing about the chat box, which is not on this slide here, it is very important that you do respond to what students are writing. You know, show them that you are paying attention and get them to ask you questions. So the chat box, some things about the chat box. Wherever possible, there are a lot of speaking activities inside our textbooks. A lot of them can be turned into writing activities and can be done inside the chat box. The chat box should be open and free. We should allow our students to just produce and say things, even if it doesn't make sense to us. I mean, if it's an opportunity for them to communicate. I think we should be focusing on fluency, not accuracy. Has anybody made any typos already when typing into the chat? Has anybody made any typos? I wonder. Still questions coming through. Absolutely wonderful. I think what typically happens is that two people do make typos. Yes, not a problem. I mean, it's fluency. If you want to work on accuracy another time. Don't inhibit students by making them feel bad if they've typed something wrong. I mean, we're all proficient users of English because we are teachers and work with the language. We're going to make typos. Doesn't matter. And wherever possible, I think if it's student generated, it's way more interesting. Those questions, I modeled some questions for you, and then you were giving me questions back. Really interesting things you wanted to know. Do I like dancing? No, because I'm terrible at it, which is awful living in Latin America, honestly. So the chat box, let's look at the second thing, in-class speaking. Right, checking the time. Right, and I can't read everything that people are typing. It's going way too quickly. So in-class speaking, some activities. I want to do some suggestions here. The best classes I've ever observed have the teacher coming in at the beginning and just opening up a discussion, talking to the students, talking about stuff. There's sometimes a desire to guide the conversation towards the topic. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it going to the topic of the class. Let the students say whatever they want. I was observing a class yesterday, a recorded class, and they were first graders of primary, and the child said, in Spanish, she said, a tooth fell out, which is a significant moment for the child. Unfortunately, the teacher didn't take the opportunity to provide the English. And then that could have been a thing that other kids could have said throughout the year as their teeth fell out, not through eating sweets, but through losing your milk teeth and getting your adult teeth. It's a brilliant opportunity. So let the topic of the conversation come from the students, and honestly, from time to time, you'll be able to link what the students are saying to your topic, and you will look like a genius. Which you all are. Another one. The students are full of ideas, right? And you are the teacher. You are a mystery to them. One thing you can ask them to do is to interview the teacher. I'm going to open up the chat box for you. I want you to ask me questions. Any questions. If you don't like the question, you are in control. If you think it's rude, you can say, I don't think that's appropriate, and maybe tell them later, It's a very simple way to give the students a little bit of power. I was talking about empowering the students. A warm-up, doesn't need to be linked to the topic. Where was I born? I was born in Wales. Are you married? Yes, I am. Have you ever been to Colombia? Yes, I have. Why did I move to Mexico? I met a woman. How old am I? 52. I'm happy to answer that question. Do you have siblings? Yes, I do. Did you have a nice day yesterday? Yesterday was really stressful. Today's much better. How long have I lived in Mexico? 26 years. Have I been to Ecuador? Yes, I have. How young am I? Where is Wales? Part of the British Isles. Next on the side of the. Do I speak Welsh? No. I've been through Japan airport, but never been to Japan. Such a shame. I wanted to go. How kind am I? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I went to Ecuador to teach. Have I been to Poland? No. Cambodia? No. Philippines? No. And my name is Philip Haines. It's so similar to the name of the Philippines. I really would love to go. How long have I been teaching? 26 years. Do you speak more than 3 languages? English, Spanish, and Spanglish. Does that count as 3? Bam! Have I visited Vietnam? Yes. Fascinating. Bam! Okay, right. Bam, 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 bam. Lots of stuff. You just turn it over to the students. And if students are using their first language to ask a question, you can pick up on that and provide them, give them the piece of language and get them to ask it. We're doing this in the chat, but we can get students to do that, in the chat box or with the microphones open or both. No? Students who are a bit more shy may prefer to do it in the chat box. More open and gregarious students may wish to do it with the microphones open. What do I like about teaching? Have I been to Russia? No, I haven't. Boom. Never been to Latvia. Favorite hobby? Teaching. So boring. Will I stay in Mexico? Yes, the rest of my life, I think. I like Mexico. It's a strange place. It's a good place. Right. Got to keep going, got to keep going, got to keep going. Another activity for reading. I'm thinking about reading or speaking, but reading aloud. I am dyslexic and I have certain issues with reading aloud, but it can be used quite well in this mode of working. I want to show you an idea. Here we have, I can't continue to answer your questions, unfortunately. Here we have a text. It could be any text, whatever text you're working with, right? This is the text I've got. This is the page I have. This is what we're going to do. Do I like spicy food? Yes, I live in Mexico. This is the activity. What we ask students to do, we choose a student, we get a volunteer, or we choose a student and we say, okay, can you read the first sentence? So that student reads the first sentence. So my name is Sarah Prentice. And at the end, the student stops and then they nominate somebody else in the class. And that person then reads the next sentence. And then at the end of that sentence, they nominate somebody else. It's such a simple way. The students will be opening their microphone one at a time. They will be reading. But there are certain benefits of this. And if you think about it, it makes all the students pay attention because they don't know who's going to be nominated next. By asking the students to nominate the next reader or speaker, depending if you're doing a certain speaking activity. Thank you, Chris. Yes, Catherine. Yeah, it assures they paid attention, not because you are telling them, but because they have to look good. It's so simple. It's zero preparation. It's what I call a coffee drinking activity. I don't have any coffee because it's too late for me. I'll drink some water instead. The students do all the work. They read through the text they're speaking, and you just sit back and drink your coffee or water. Right. Another one. Show and tell. Students, if you think about students going to class, they have a bag. They will have, 20, 30, 50, 60 objects with them. What about mispronunciations? You can listen to that, Alicia, and you can then give feedback later. Same thing. Fine. Doesn't matter. Keeps them on their toes. Yeah. Students in a face-to-face class will come in with a bag and they'll have a number of different objects. But inside their home, they have hundreds of objects. And I have an object. This comes from the south of Mexico, from Chiapas. It's pom-poms. I do not know what it's called, but these are very traditional things from Chiapas, from the south of Mexico. And every day you could have a small section where one student a day has to show something and say something, and you can provide them with the kinds of language. It could be something simple, just like this is, and they say what it is. That's at the beginning. Then it could be, these are pom-poms. They are made of wool. They could say what it's made of. And if the students don't know if it's the same first language that you have, they can ask you. You can provide it, and they can say it. Yeah, and you're going to come up with sticky objects. I don't know exactly what you mean, but that's quite funny. But you can then say more things. How long have you had it? Present perfect. You can come in with a number of different ways of getting students to use the bits of language. Yeah. And if you think about it, give them 2 or 3 phrases at the beginning to use, supply them with the language that they need, and you can build on it more and more and more, and encourage other students to ask questions. And again, you're kind of empowering the students, and you're going to be so surprised by the things that come into the classroom. And another one that I quite like, exit statements. When you finish your class, before you finish your class, you say to your students, right, if you want to leave the class, you have to say something. It could be as simple as, okay, tell me your favorite word from today's class. Every student has to open their microphone. So I just use the names that are coming up here. Jennifer, thank you very much. You are now free to leave the class. Christina says her word, and then thank you. You are now free to leave your class. What are sticky objects? I don't know. I don't know what that is. This is so interesting. Now things are coming into the class, and now you are communicating with each other. This is how the chat box becomes so kind of interesting. It could be, what was your favorite phrase from the class? It could be something like, what did you learn in today's class? Ask me a question before you leave the classroom. I don't know what's happening in the chat box, but yes, this is all happening and it's absolutely fantastic. Routines. Yes, it becomes like a closing routine. Everybody has to say something before they leave. If you've got a class with more than 30 students, it becomes a bit slow. You may say chat box and the with the microphones open. It could be reflection. Yeah. Or it could be, okay, let's just do this now. I know it's different times for different people. I'm not planning to eat anything else today. Tell me, okay, this is an example of an exit statement. Okay, tell me, what is the next thing you plan to eat? As a closure, yeah, it's just a thing, you know, and now you're talking about the student's own life. But you close with a little routine. They have to say something with a microphone or with a chat, and you get them to say something. So tell me, what is the next thing you plan to eat? It's breakfast. What are you going to have for breakfast? Pancakes, apples, cereal, rusks, cheese, cake. Boom, look at this. Look at the language that's coming through. And then you can ask, I'll ask you to do this as well. I want you to read what people write, and I want you to see what you think is the strangest thing that somebody has written. Boom. You know, I mean, that's not speaking, but that could be your exit statement activity. 2 minutes before the end of the class, write, students, you can only leave the class when I give you permission. And you only can get permission if you say something, which is the exit statement. And we've got people from so many different countries, so there's so many different things coming through. Nothing at midnight. Yeah, it's going to be it's 11:30. I should be in bed, but here I am. So let's keep going. Student participation. So in class speaking, it needs to be quite balanced. You know, make sure that it's not just you doing all the speaking. Make sure that you're getting the students to speak as much as possible. I've given you a few ideas of how you can get students speaking. And it's quite good sometimes to give them a bit of language which they can then use. And it may be with a piece of grammar. Teacher, I plan to eat pizza. I plan to eat rusks. I don't know who's eating rusks. And things I don't know. Very student-centered. These ideas, a lot of the thing is coming from the students. Yeah, Christina, what are you doing up at 2:30 a.m.? Student controlled. I think the more the students control it, the more interesting it is. I mean, you know, look at the amount of things we're getting happening in the chat. And relaxed. Try not to worry too much about accuracy. Work on fluency first. The accuracy can be done later. Yeah. You can make a note of the things that are coming through. Then that may even be a record which is there electronically that you can go back to from the class, look at the chat, go back and you can say, oh, that's a typo, that's not a problem. Oh, that's a nice bit of language, and you can focus on that the next time. Yeah, wow. Yes, crazy times. What is everybody doing up at this time? Not the people in Turkey and Vietnam and Japan, not these places, but in the Americas, we should all be in bed. So that was in-class speaking. Let me look at the time. Right, good. I want to move on to think about breakout rooms. I think breakout rooms is an incredibly powerful thing if it works in your particular virtual class platform. Some of them it works really well. Some it's a bit clunky and difficult to set up, but if you can, it is a very, very powerful way. I mean, it kind of simulates the group and pair work activities that we do in our regular classroom. If the students leave without, will I respond? Yeah, you make a note and say, no, you didn't, you left the class without saying that. Yeah, picking up on that. Wow, look at the time. Amazing. It's so wonderful to work with people from all over the world. Yeah, in the Americas, we should be in bed. This is what we should be doing. Right. So, yeah, breakout rooms are absolutely wonderful if it works on your particular piece of technology. Yeah, Zoom, I think it works beautifully. That's the one I've had most fun with. But a few points about this. When we're using breakout rooms, we need to have very clear objectives. We need to make sure that students know exactly what they have to do and kind of why they're doing it. In a face-to-face class, it's very easy to set up an activity, and then you look across the classroom and you can see everybody and you can see if they're following or understanding. But in the breakout rooms, it's not so easy. So we've got to be very, very clear about what they have to do. We need to check our instructions. I don't know any teacher who gives perfect instructions all the time. It is very difficult. Teams does now have breakout rooms, which I haven't had a chance to use because there is a restriction. If it's not you who set up the class, you can't actually monitor work with the breakout rooms. There are certain restrictions. So we've got to check our instructions. A good idea is to write them on the screen so the students can actually see what they have, and then accessing the material from a tutor, Sean Wilden, gave me this simple suggestion in a course I took with him last year. Get students to use their phone and take a photo of the screen, because not all breakout rooms transfer the content that you have on your main screen to the breakout rooms. Yeah. And we need to set realistic timings. In my face-to-face teaching, I don't like to set timings. I like to see how things go. Let you see how the activity works, whether it goes on for longer because it's working well or should be cut short. But we need to set realistic time limits. We can't just look across the classroom and see whether the activity is winding down or needs more time. So it is beautiful, but it does have certain restrictions. It doesn't work in exactly the same way as face-to-face classes. But I think if you keep those things in mind, it should work quite well. So that was breakout rooms. I want to move on to thinking about audio recordings. This is vastly underused in English language teaching, but I think it's being used more and more since many of us have been thrown into working more with digital forms of working. And I want to show you something. Oh, this is a screenshot which I took when I went onto this page. It's from something called Vocaroo or Bocaroo. I'm not sure the correct pronunciation. And it came up in Spanish. I know not everybody speaks Spanish. It says the service leader in voice recording. And it is such a simple tool. Yeah, yes, these things are absolutely brilliant. You can get students to use these tools. There are many. I like this one because it's so simple. It is so simple. You go to the page, you click on the button, you record, you click on the button again and stop, and then look at this. You can listen to it, and in terms of assessment, self-assessment, if you ask students to record something and then you say to them, okay, send me what you've got. Hopefully they will listen to it, they will self-assess, and hopefully they will record again. And then you can get a QR code, you can encrust it, you can download it, you can eliminate it, or you can just get a simple URL. And you don't have to pass the recording. All the student has to do is just give you that URL, that code, https:// and then anybody can then listen to that directly. It is free. It is free, yes. Yeah, I don't know if it's available in all countries. I really couldn't say, but it's beautifully simple, and you don't have to worry about sending recordings all over the place. People are mentioning Padlet. Padlet is a beautiful thing. There are many things like this. There are several. Don't ask me the names because I cannot remember. It's like a electronic notice board. Yes, I'll show you some of the options. If the students click on the little plus sign, there's a little plus sign at the bottom down there. If they click on that plus sign, they can then post things. If they then click on those three little dots, you get these options. essentially they can put images, text, audio, or video. The three different things. Yes, different people are giving different suggestions. Jamboard. Yes, please read what other people are writing. This is where the chat becomes very nice and interactive. You can support each other. And so simple. And then you can record. And I think that if you are recording here, all the students put things here. It could be a video, it could be an audio recording, it could be typing. If other students can access it, you can give them the simple task. Right, everybody do this, whatever it is. Something simple, something complicated. Right, listen to other students' responses and decide which one you like best. That's not a very sophisticated piece of evaluation, but by asking them which one do you prefer, they have to listen to everybody's. They then pay more attention because they go, I want mine to be the best. Yeah. And, there's a lot of speaking happening there. Right. Worrying about the time. So audio recordings. It can be very controlled. It can be as controlled as say the words from today's lesson. Say the vocabulary words from today's lesson. Yeah, brilliant. People are coming up with other versions. Yeah, other tools. It can be very simple or very complex. You can do this at very low levels. It can be done in connection with the class, or it can be done outside class time. If you put things in a place where other students can access this, it becomes quite a... the student is the audience, and if the students are writing for other students or speaking for other students or videoing themselves for other students, there's more ownership of that thing that they produce. Sorry, I've run out of good words. And if you want to assess speaking, you don't need to use class time. You say, okay, this is the task. It could be as simple as reading a paragraph from your textbook aloud. And you can just assess from that, and hopefully the students will practice several times in order to give a good product. So, running out of time. We have some time left. Yes, I'm okay. Out of class speaking. The suggestions I gave you just now could be in class or out of class. The simplest thing, again, I stole this again from Sean, who, you can see at the bottom, there's the reference to a book that he wrote. Getting students to use their phone. If you have voice recognition on your phone, let me see if I can actually switch my phone on and do this. Students can practice speaking by speaking into their phone. I'm going to use what it says here, and I'm going to ask you to do and share what you have on your what comes up. So I click onto the little voice symbol and I say, "What time does the sun set today in Mexico City?"
In Mexico City today, sunset was at 6:41 p.m.
There you go. Right. Can I ask you if you've got your phone activated and in English? If it's not activated in English, it won't work. Can I ask you, wherever you are, whichever part of the world you are, what time does the sun set in wherever you are? And I know people are in different parts of the world, and then maybe you could just share. Yeah. We're coming to WhatsApp in a second. There are so many different tools, such simple things. I wonder if anybody has asked their phone what time the sun sets in a particular place. I would love to see what you type. 7 o'clock, 6:30, wherever you are, 6, yeah. 7 p.m., 7:20 in Singapore. And you see, we're practicing, Ask Siri, yeah, exactly, yeah. Students sometimes say things like, "Oh, teacher, I can't practice. I've got nobody to practice with." Rubbish. You've got a phone. You can say things into it. Yeah. And also, I do live in Mexico. You ask it again, how far is Acapulco from here? And it will tell you. I don't know if you want to say into your phone how far Acapulco is. It's going to give you some ridiculous distance because most of you are not near Acapulco. I just wonder if you would like to type in how far Acapulco is from wherever you are. I wonder if anybody's going to say that. I don't know. I don't know. Takes the fear out of speaking, Heather, completely, yeah. I mean, because students are practicing on their own. Okay, if anybody has asked their phone how far Acapulco is from them, which is ridiculously far, 9,813 kilometers, ridiculously far. I'm going to move on. Please do put in your answers. Things like WhatsApp. Okay, this is completely out of class. It's student to student. It is not monitored by the teacher. Simple things such as, how do you spell Chihuahua? Yeah, whatever. And the other one has to go CHIHUA. And they send it back, and you can practice far, far away. Really far. Yeah, ridiculous, isn't it? Particularly. Students can interview each other. It's not controlled by you, the teacher. It is controlled by the students. Oh, Louisa, 16,710 kilometers. It's really far from where you are. The Acapulco Bowling Center. Okay, brilliant. Yes, you know how to spell Chihuahua. I learned how to spell it. Yeah, it took me a long time because I'm quite dyslexic. Audio diary. I mean, you could do many different things, I mean, that could be done individually. It could be shared, as simple as that. 3 times a day, just say what you would like, what you're doing at different times of the day. So I need to start wrapping up this session before we go to the questions, which are going to be coming up quite soon. Hang on a sec, just close that down. Right. Yes, it can be individual or collaborative. It can easily involve self-assessment at the simple level of, okay, you record it, you listen to it. If you think it's good enough, you post it, you send it. If it's not, record it again. And Parangarico Tirimiquaro, Guillermo, you're just testing me, aren't you? Okay, that's my favorite place name in Mexico. Yes, so it easily involves self-assessment, right? And it's very, very student-centered. And when things are student-centered, it's typically more engaging. So let's just summarize what we've got before we go to questions. Hopefully, some of you are putting your questions in the chat, and we're going to go for questions in a minute or two. So, just to summarize, I looked at 5 different modes of working. People are still telling me how far Acapulco is there from where they live. The first thing we looked at was the chat box. It's not technically speaking, but it's parallel to speaking. And the chat box is such a beautiful democratic space where students can be using writing as like a substitute for speaking. You've got in-class speaking, things like interviewing the teacher, chatting with the teacher, the exit statements, the nominating the next reader, that kind of thing. Breakout rooms, absolutely. Thank you, Amparo. Breakout rooms where you can get the students to do kind of pair and group work. You've got to manage it, and it's got to work on your particular platform. Audio recordings. I mean, you were suggesting so many different kind of platforms, sites where things can be recorded and then easily shared. They can be shared directly to you, the teacher, but if it's shared with other students, it becomes a lot richer. And out of class speaking, talking into your phone, using WhatsApp or whatever, or similar kinds of tools. And with that, really, those are the 5 different modes that I think we can operate inside the classroom. And with that, still telling me how far away Acapulco is from where you were. Okay, brilliant. Okay, stop getting excited. Let's go to questions. So I think I go over to Q&A.
Yeah, if you go to Q&A and click the
published
one, and then you'll see all the questions there.
Good. Okay, so I'll go through and see if I can answer. I like 30 teachers, 1 student through the chat. Requires a certain level of typing skills. Yes. But if, I think, one finger responses are quite good, or incredibly simple things for lower level students. Yeah, with the little kids, it's not going to work well, but I think it's a very nice way to get students participating. What rules of speaking engagement can you establish to ensure equal and appropriate conversations? Angelina, that's an interesting question. It's never going to be completely equal because of the nature of the students in the classroom. But I think the goal is to get more and more students speaking. Things like the nominate the next reader. If you've been nominated once, you cannot nominate again. You could do that in breakout rooms as well. Interesting question. Don't think I fully answered that one. But as much participation as possible. Elena, how do you get younger students especially, to stop speaking to each other in their mother tongue? The suggestion would be is to listen to the kinds of phrases they frequently need, model those phrases for them. For example, it's like the kids whose tooth fell out, they say it in Spanish. And what you do is you say, okay, my tooth fell out. Listen, my tooth fell out. Model, elicit. Next class, they're not going to say it, but little by little, supply them with the language that they need. I think mother tongue is great. I mean, if students are using their mother tongue is something they want to express, give them those bits of language, little by little. Emir, how can you encourage a few students, especially absolutely self-conscious teenagers, to speak when they never do so? I think try not to force them to do too much, and then maybe the speaking is in the chat first. Yes, that very shy student. Okay, you're doing the exit statements, for example. What was your favorite word? Don't insist that everybody says it out loud, but if they're doing it in the chat, that's a step in the right direction, I think. Now my dyslexia. Hui? Yeah, not terrible, sorry. Hello, may I ask how to teach mixed classes at different levels? This is one of my ideas. Thank you for that question. If you give students, in the 30 teachers, 1 student activity, you give them the phrase, that you want them to use. The lower level students use that phrase and build on that phrase. The higher level students can use language beyond that level. So it's probably easier to do mixed ability classes, teach mixed ability classes in this kind of context. Don't think we're going to get through all the questions. How should it be considered simultaneously, accuracy or fluency? There are times to focus on accuracy. There are times to focus on fluency. If you try to focus on both at the same time, one destroys the other. Do a lot of focus on fluency, and then collect the bits of language which you saw were problematic, and then spend 5-6 minutes working on accuracy. But if it's coming from the fluency first, it's much richer. Is there an online app for flashcards? There are, and I do not know. Maybe somebody else could put that in the chat. Some of us don't use breakout rooms in school platforms, and we can't. Yeah, if your platform or what you are supplied with your school doesn't have breakout rooms, something like Padlet could be used to do some kind of communication. You might want to get students working in pairs over WhatsApp or something like that. There are so many different variables in that. How much wait time should we provide during synchronous online classes with unsteady connections? I find myself waiting over a minute, unfortunately, the synchronous classes. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? You can't, if the technology is not good, if the internet connection is not good, don't get too stressed by it. There's nothing you can do about it. I think, and we did this a little bit, you ask a question and then you can allow the answers to come at different times. Don't worry if students are responding to something which happened 2 minutes ago. It does take a little bit of skill to manage that, but wait. Yeah. No, I didn't answer your question properly. Ooh. Right, that's way too long. I can't. But thank you very much. Thank you for your comment. Sorry, your name I missed. Let me go back and see if I can check your name. My dyslexia. Suhaila. Being dyslexic is awful at times. Josie. Why do we ask questions on the phone? Do students send... no, brilliant. Thank you for that question. The idea is you're not going to give your phone number to most students. Don't give your phone number to students. Get your students to work in pairs, like WhatsApp buddies. They send it to each other. It's not... Whoops, I've switched on my lamp on my phone. It's purely for enjoyment and interaction. It's not for you to assess. It's an opportunity for students to use the language without that stress of having to be observed by the teacher. It's quite free and open. That's the idea. Do I have a homepage? I did have a page set up. I dropped it. A lot of my ideas I put on the OUP ELT global blog. I've got a number of 25 ideas for using audio scripts, 25 ideas for using WhatsApp, 25 ideas for randomly grouping students, things like that. Looking for more ideas for conversation classes. So yes, my things I've published them on the OUP ELT blog. How do you assess the student's fluency versus accuracy? I don't assess fluency. I just let them speak because I feel that the way to develop something is through practicing it, and the more you enjoy it, the better. So the fluency is more about just give it a go, give it a go, give it a go, give it a go, so that the students practice and enjoy. And then I would have other sections to work on the accuracy. Yeah, I don't always assess fluency. I work on that as just part of the process of speaking. I don't know. There's a question here. Will we be getting the slides for this presentation? I believe that is a question that will come from my colleague. I'm going to continue answering questions until Josh jumps in and stops me. So, okay. Dr. Safar. I do apologize. Is it wise to make chat box production graded to increase class participation? Really interesting question. I would not grade it. Such an interesting question. Yes. No, I wouldn't. I would just leave it there as a tool for encouraging them. I do suggest you pay attention to it and notice things that can be focused on later for accuracy work. But that's a really good question. You do so apologize. When focusing on fluency, should we read and correct the chat? Or just read it as it is? Yeah, really interesting question. I asked this question earlier. Did anybody make typos? People are always going to be making typos. I think that's a decision for you. If it's a piece of language which you know students know and they're getting it wrong, you can jump on it and say, Juan, no, it's not like that, it's this. Just give the correct bit of language, or try to elicit the correct piece of language. In general, I would let it be an open and free and relaxed environment. It kind of comes back to what we were saying at the very, very beginning of the session.
Philip, why don't we cut it off there? Do you have another couple slides that you wanted to click through?
I do have my thank you slide, but I want to show you this. Just a piece of advertising, isn't it? If you want some ideas for focusing on online teaching and managing online learning, we have a couple of papers there. I think my colleagues will probably put that into the chat. I really want to say thank you very much for participating in my session and leading me up to Friday when I should be in bed. So I'm going to go back one slide and say thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it over to Josh to wrap up the session.
All right. Thank you so much, Philip. Lots of great ideas. Wonderful. Wonderful that all the teachers were commenting in the chat, really active and engaging. So thank you all for joining the session. As I said before, this room will automatically boot everyone out in 23 seconds. If you've registered for the next session, you will automatically be redirected. If not, then please enjoy the rest of your day, evening, morning, whatever it is. Thank you again for joining, and please enjoy the rest of ELTOC.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye in 2 seconds.